All right, joined here by Danny Marang. He's the host of the Jack Ramsey's pod and our correspondent for the Portland Trailblazers. Really appreciate your time, Danny. Thanks for hopping on with me. Let's talk Portland. Let's talk a team that they're 6-16 right now. I think we talked about tempered expectations in our first initial discussion, and I think that's really borne out. The pressure's kind of
Yep.
off, and I think it's probably a better place to be with than rather like just trying to stress out the end of the Dame era.
Yeah, there's been a few injuries. Obviously, Scoot Henderson picked up a knock. Jeremy Grant is currently in concussion protocol. He's going to be out for another game at least. Malcolm Brogdon had a sore knee. He was put out of action for 2 weeks. DeAndre Ayton's had a little bit of a knee issue. He's out. He probably is going to come back tomorrow night. And then Time Lord Robert Williams III tore his knee. He's obviously out for the season. That's also been another kind of thing to overcome. And Anfernee Simons tore the right ligament or the ligament in his right thumb in the first half of Game 1 of the season. So they just got him back 3 games ago. So the fact that they're 6-16 is probably impressive considering they're not looking like the Pistons or the Wizards or the Spurs in that vein. One of the things that I've heard from rival coaches and executives and players all alike is that this team is a tough out. They're a young team that they are taking on an identity that the Blazers have hoped would come along with Chauncey Billups since he got here 2.5 years ago. And it's that they're tough, they're focused, and they play with kind of a nastiness. Like you see the Trailblazers on the schedule and you go, young team. We're going to get in there, get out. It'll be no problem. You're going to get a win, but you're going to lose a pound of flesh here. Like that's kind of the goal right now is like they want you to come in here and go, oh God, we got to go all the way the hell out there, go to Nike for the day and then fight with this ornery little team of 20-year-olds. Great. Like, because it's either the beginning or the end of a trip. So it's how it always works. So you're just like, you're either getting in fresh and you're like, I'm going to spend a day at Nike. Maybe it'll be pouring down rain. And like, oh, this onslaught of 20-year-olds, it's going to full court press us for 48 minutes. Awesome. So it's been, if nothing, entertaining to say the least.
That's good to hear. And when you change expectations, obviously, from a team that had been a perennial playoff contender to a team where you just never know how the fan base is going to respond to that kind of change, what it's going to be like. We've talked about the pressure kind of being off and how teams have handled it. It seems like they've handled it better than some other teams. They're not one of the teams that's at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of, oh man, we love to see Washington on the schedule. Joel Embiid played Washington and Detroit every single night of his career.
30 and 10 and a half.
Yeah, it's wild. Now those teams are struggling, and San Antonio probably in that category as well. But with Portland, even just having some veterans, some guys that could really stabilize things and help direct the young guys probably helps. How has maybe Malcolm Brogdon, DeAndre Ayton, guys like that, Jeremy Grant even, how have they helped in that regard?
There's been massive stabilizing forces. The entire offense was supposed to be predicated on Simons and DA pick and rolls, DeAndre Ayton pick and rolls. Simons goes down in the first half. He played in the second half. In the third quarter, he came out at halftime, and it was one of those situations where he tried to kind of play through it because just he thinks, oh, it's a little bit sore. Got kind of a higher extended. Turned out he tore the ulnar collateral ligament in his thumb, and
nice.
Missed every shot he took after that. So it was like, wow, it's crazy because I think it was 7 of 8. He had one of those, Denver knows exactly what Anfernee Simons can do.
Yeah, we know exactly, especially early in the season where you're not prepared to get out there onto the perimeter. And he's like, oh, crap, you've got 30 points on 8 shots somehow.
Yeah, and he was having one of those. His first quarter was a little bit rough. His second quarter, I think he went 7 for 7 or 7 for 8, and he had 19 and a half. And you're like, 19-point quarter, first game of the season. Here we go. He's going to start right here because it's as much as it's Scoot Henderson's team, as far as the number 3 overall draft pick, it's Anfernee Simons' team. He's the best player on the team. He's the guy who was going to kind of lead them into the season. And with him falling off with the injury, it was like, okay, now what? Because Scoot was very clearly and is clearly not ready to handle that. So the veterans like Malcolm Brogdon, the man was 6th man of the year for a reason. He could start for just about any team in the league. He's an incredibly professional, good point guard. He doesn't have this otherworldly quickness or shiftiness, or it's veteran savvy. I'm going to go here, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's truly incredible to watch. He's never going left. If he goes left, it's so he can come back right. He's never going left ever, and yet it's like the anti-Isaiah Thomas, where Isaiah Thomas would always go left.
Sure.
It's the same thing with Brogdon. Like, I may hezzy tween, but I'm going right. I'm going to put my big meaty shoulder in your chest, and then I'm going to turn the corner, and then I'm just going to kind of trot to the rim and somehow get a layup. And you're just like, how the hell did he do that? But he did that to the tune of basically like 19, 6, and 6, just night after night after night. It wasn't leading to a lot of wins because, they were still playing Scoot, 35 minutes a night and not quite ready for that minutes load. Jeremy Grant started out really rough first 2 or 3 games of the season because he went from like kind of a quasi-supporting role to please carry the offense. And then Jeremy basically went for 2 weeks as like one of the 3 best players in the league. Which was kind of crazy. I want to say it was the first 8 games of the season. He improved his points per game every game because he had a really bad opening night. It was like 12 points on poor shooting, and then it was 17, then it was 18, then it was 21, then it was 22, then 25, then 27, then 29, then 34, and you're like, it's getting better and more efficient, more efficient. They just kind of kept going and going and going. I think he had like a 39-point night.
Nice.
And you look at the efficiency, all of a sudden he was shooting like, 46% from 3, and you're like, and he was rebounding, which, he doesn't do. So it was like,
it's very rare.
Yeah. So it was like, oh man, Jeremy's had like 34, 7, and 5. Oh, okay. Like, where did that come from? DeAndre Ayton, unfortunately suffered the biggest setback without shooting, particularly Anfernee Simons' gravity outside. Teams just pack the paint, and DA is a guy who doesn't typically get all the way to the rim. He settles, quote unquote, for that, mid paint pull up. But I don't know if I necessarily call it settling when you're the second best shooter to Jokic at that shot in the entire league. Like if you look at all of the metrics, it's Jokic who hits it at an obscene rate, and then a slightly less obscene rate. Hey, DeAndre Ayton right there. So it's one of those things where you're like, I wish he got all the way to the rim, but he does shoot 60% there, so it's kind of okay.
Sure.
But there was just almost nowhere for him to work. The space was non-existent. The paint was packed. The timing was off because of the additions of DA and Brogdon to the team. It was really late into the training camp process and into I should say pre-training camp. It was basically in training camp that the deal happens. I think it was a day before camp open is when they got there. So the timing, the rhythm, everything else fell apart. But the veterans were just a huge addition to, I don't know, a level of professionalism that was just you don't typically see in these kind of teams, and yet they still suck enough to make sure that their lottery pick is very much protected. It's a perfect balance, to be honest.
It really is. I mean, that's if you're the general manager of the Portland Trailblazers, you're thinking, okay, this is exactly how it should go. Kind of a roundabout way, and you'd never want an injury to kind of facilitate that. And actually, there are a couple of injuries that I think have kind of facilitated the way that this needs to go for Portland, which is, hey, got to bring Scoot Henderson off the bench. Got to slow play it a little bit. Got to make sure that he's ready to go at his own pace and not have the burden of the entire franchise on him. You talked about him starting pretty slow. Can you give us an update on where he's been since he's gotten back from the injury?
Yeah, the big thing for him was just everything slowing down and figuring out what he was going to be able to do that was productive on the floor night in, night out. And I know that sounds weird, but I have been banging this drum since the minute he was drafted. 19-year-old rookie point guards suck. Full stop.
It's universal.
Denver should know. Emmanuel Mudiay was one of them. He was a dumpster fire. He was terrible. There were 3 19-year-old rookie point guards in NBA history who were remotely good. Kyrie Irving, LaMelo Ball, Stephon Marbury. And think about those 3 guys real quick. Kyrie Irving has, I don't even think it's arguable, the best handles in NBA history. He's also a 50-40-90 shooter.
Yeah.
He had 2 things that day one, he was better than damn near everyone at. And it still didn't mean a thing. That Cavs team sucked.
They were not good.
Stephon Marbury could get wherever he wanted on the floor. Lightning quickness. Uber athleticism. LaMelo Ball's a 6'8" passing savant who could shoot out to 35 feet. What is the thing that Scoot does day one that you're like, yep, that's it? And it's get into the paint and spray passes. Well, if you don't have a ton of shooting and teams are packing the paint on you and you don't have an understanding of how NBA pick and rolls work because you're 19 and you played in the G League where it's like,
sometimes pick and roll.
Yeah. It's just gonna take a while because you need to learn angles. You need to learn pacing. You need to learn how to change gears. You need to learn how to finish over NBA shot blockers. Huge white European bigs have been the bane of his existence. It has been, whether it's been Nurkic, whether it's been Pirtle, I mean, you name Zubac, you name a huge white dude in the league, they have gobbled him up at the rim. Because he's just not used to seeing 7'1", 285-pound monsters go, this is mine.
Sure.
So he's learning all these little things. The shooting is still, he had his best game of his young career, 19-6-4 last game. And the big difference is the shot going in. But even more than that, it was he kind of knew what he wanted to do on a given possession. After the game, this isn't like real math, but I said, this is kind of like the 85-15 principle of like 85% of the time, he knew what he wanted to do, which for a rookie, hey, 2 thumbs up.
Sure.
We go with that. We go with that. Okay.
That's a very fair breakdown. And like, it's never going to be 100, especially at this stage. He hasn't seen every defense. He hasn't seen like even half of what defenses can really start to do when they really start to lock in. And like this
Damian Lillard told me it took him until year 4. This is a guy who ran a pick and roll offense in college for 4 years.
Right.
Who ran 8,000 pick and rolls before he even got to the league. And then it took him another 12,000 more pick and rolls before he got there.
It's going to take time.
It's going to be a minute.
Yeah. And I know that's what Portland signed up for. That's what that's what they're hoping for. And it's good that they had the pressure taken off, especially for that reason. 2 guys I want to ask you about, Shaedon Sharpe and Toumani Camara.
Ooh, buddy.
Shaedon Sharpe, like fun second-year player who is now starting to really figure some things out.
Yep.
And then my question that I have listed here, I know who he is, but for the audience, who the heck is Toumani Camara, and why did Blazers fans care so much?
Yeah, so Shaedon is taking another step forward, and the big thing for him has been, Anfernee Simons has come back the last 3 games. He's averaging 25, 6, and 5 on 50, 40. I think I want to say it's 50, 40, 75 splits. Free throw line's a little bit if he's about an 80% free throw shooter, which is weird because he can shoot the living hell out of the ball from 3.
Sure.
But he is a guy who is a bit of a throwback. He's more of a traditional 2 guard. Where he comes off ball, he plays off pin downs. He's not JJ Redick. Don't get it twisted. He's not running all over the floor, but they're running like little pet actions for him to attack a defense that's not set. And I don't know if you saw it the other night. Occasionally, he gets a chance to attack by himself, run a quick little pick and roll, get a switch, and then send Daniel Tice to the nether realm with a step back that sent him just spiraling out of control. He's got a nice little hezzy tween hang dribble kind of thing. Like, don't get it twisted. Simons' bag is galaxies beyond Shaedon's. Shaedon still needs to tighten that up, but it's better than it was last year. He really couldn't get anywhere with it. But they're watching him, man, and don't be surprised when you look up at the end of the season. He's averaging like 21, 6, and 4, and you're going, oh,
that's a 20-year-old.
That's a 20-year-old doing this,
yeah,
and on good splits. And it's going to go, oh, they got a nice little backcourt over there. Toumani Camara is a terrorist, an absolute terrorist, and I love him. Like if I had a daughter, I wanted to marry him. He's a wonderful man, and it is a privilege to watch him play basketball. He is a 23-year-old rookie who he makes life living hell. I said I talked to some opposing players. Without naming them, I've talked to 4 different starting point guards in the NBA who all had some version of F that guy. He is a nightmare to play against. It is not Chauncey Billups who's like, hey, I want you to go out there and pressure him. It is built into his brain. He's like, I'm going to go ahead and pick up full length, and I'm going to wear you like a trench coat for 40 minutes. Have fun.
I love that.
He's doing it. He's every bit of 6'7". And Ryan, there's guys who move well for their size, and then there's guys that just move. Like Michael Porter Jr. is a guy who moves well for his size. Like you're like,
Sure.
Oh, that dude moves well for 6'10". Toumani moves well for anyone. He stays in a stance down low and doesn't slow down.
Just wild.
You just don't like. There's like. I've compared him to Raja Bell. I don't know if you watched Raja at all in his prime.
A little bit.
He just he was like a snake. He would stay low and just stay with you no matter what. And Toumani has real defensive. Like I hate how everybody says, "Well, defense is it's a lot of it's mostly just how much you care." No, it's not. It's defensive talent. Because there's plenty of guys in the league who care. If you went and told somebody, "Hey, you can go make $10 million a year if you just care a lot," there would be a lot more great defenders in the league. That's just not the case. Toumani is a talented defender. And he's always turned up to 11, and he's instigated, I want to say, probably about a half dozen technicals already.
Love that.
That's guys want to fight him every single night, and it's amazing. I love him for it.
He's exactly the guy, especially that you want next to a couple of scorers, whether they're Simons and Shaedon and guys like that. He can take the pressure off.
He's
can
a bash
cross
brother.
Match. Like he's a perfect guy.
Plays him 3, plays him 4.
Mix and match into what you're doing. Now there are some things that he's going to have to improve on, especially on the offensive end. But like people have to remember, he's a rookie. Like this is the time to kind of improve on that. So
he hits 36% from 3. I don't need plus. Give me league average 36% from 3. Stay on the floor, buddy. You're not coming off.
Love that, and I think that is in his future. I think
I'm willing to bet that he number 1 makes all rookie, because I think people who vote are going to look back and go, well, he was like 6th in scoring. How the hell did he get there? He was like 4th in rebounding, and he's clearly the best defender in this not named Chet or Victor. So yeah, he's going to make this team, and I genuinely think in his career he's going to make an all defense team. Like he's that good of a defender.
I love that.
It's terrifying. Like I can't remember the last time I saw a rookie who was like just that savvy about stuff. And it's just like, you're supposed to be dumb. How are you this? I don't get it.
They're getting smarter getting into the league, man.
There's are, man.
Not everybody, but like there's a lot of young guys.
Sar's another one.
Yeah.
Sar's got like that natural defensive talent to just be there at the right place. And you're just like, you're a child. You're not supposed to have any comprehension of this.
Toumani Camara, NBA terrorist. I'll remember that one for a while. That's good.
I love it. That's
good. Last one I have here for you. What's the next kind of macro goal for this team? If you had to pick one thing that you were hoping the team would work on over the course of, let's say, these next 6 weeks or so, what would you hope that they accomplish?
Simons and DA. They need to see what they have with that. They need to figure that out. That's the thing. I don't think you're going to see a ton of changes to this team. I don't think you're going to see Jeremy Grant traded at the deadline.
Interesting.
I think if it happens, anything can change, but I think he's going to be I think he's genuinely happy here. I mean, I don't know if you interacted with him in Denver. Like Jeremy's a great dude. Like one of my favorite guys to talk to. He's happy here. He's got a kid. Other than the fact that he just picked up his 4th concussion, he's great. Yeah, poor guy just got the
poor guy. I'm a football guy, so I understand what that means. Like, that's a lot.
He got his brain scrambled. But Simons DA just have had. I want to say that they've Ant Simons and DA have played 4 minutes together this season.
Not enough.
Yeah, and it's like cool. Can we see what that looks like when they're? Oh, sorry, Ant Sharpe, Simon Sharpe, DA, and Grant have played 4 minutes together. So it's one of those things. It's like, can we see what it looks like with the 4 best offensive players on the floor?
Yeah,
please. That'd be cool.
Then kind of see where Scoot kind of fills into that. Like that's where the balance kind of comes into. He doesn't have to be in there immediately, but like you talked about, this is Simon's team. This is like the primary pick and roll partner with M and DA, and a couple of awesome wings in Shaedon Sharpe and Jeremy Grant. Like that's how you got to build it. And I think they've got a good pulse on that. I haven't seen anything otherwise from this team. Like it feels like a well-run group that knows that they have to be patient and understand that the long game is where it's at.
Yeah, and then at the trade deadline, I imagine they'll move on from Brogdon. That'll free up some additional minutes for Scoot to kind of either play with Ant or play with Shaedon. Makes things easier to kind of figure the other stuff out, and then steer into the skid perhaps one more time for the end of the season. Like right now, they're on pace for 24 wins.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say when we recorded the first time, I said they were going to win 24 games. So
sounds about right. Hey. Somebody seems to know what they're talking about. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I stumble into it. Mostly just fall into it.
He is Danny Marang of the Jack Ramsey's podcast and hosting for the Portland Trailblazers here. Danny, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Let's talk again in 6 weeks, all right?
Absolutely, brother. Take care.